Welcome to GovMates Next Gen, a podcast that will cover hot topic industry discussions as well as innovation news and technology chats regarding the ways in which small businesses and non-traditionals are driving change for government customers and the end user. GovMates Next Gen, where innovation and collaboration collide. Hello and welcome back to another episode. If you haven't heard already, as of Friday, which is less than a week ago at recording time, and for those listening, we're at the end of March 2022, GSA actually released RFPs for Polaris regarding the small business and woman-owned small business pools. Submissions are open starting April 5th and due on May 13th, so you can go to the GSA website for that to find any of the information that you might need. We have had 2 Polaris-themed discussions as part of our GovMates Institutes that can be found on our YouTube channel should you want to take a look at those. Simply search GovMates on YouTube or head to our website, www.govmates.com/institute, where you can scroll down to the bottom and find those replays. Today, I have the pleasure of diving into a conversation with Samantha, the co-founder of Re3D, a company which, as you will hear, has and continues to have a profound impact on a variety of industries, both inside and outside of the government space. They're absolutely redefining cost and scale when it comes to 3D printing and all that can be done to provide innovative solutions to problems around the globe. But I will let Samantha tell you all about the goodness that is coming from the team and the partners at Re3D without further delay. Samantha, thank you so much for joining me today. And I wanted to jump right into our first question, which is, who are you and what makes you an expert in your industry?
First, thanks so much for having us on this podcast today. It's always a pleasure to get to connect with the broader community, share a little bit about our story, and hopefully follow up with the people listening on their passions. So I don't know if I'm an expert. I struggled a little bit with that prompt. I would say that I guess I fall into the accidental entrepreneur category. And that's because I've tended in my career just to pursue personal passions, try and solve problems with friends. So for context, I am I'm an Air Force reservist on the weekends, and also have the honor of serving as a co-founder and catalyst for Re3D, where we make large, affordable, industrial 3D printers, specifically focused on cost and scale barriers to 3D printing and addressing those hurdles. So that's a lot of words. What does that mean? It means that I work a lot in balancing the reservist and startup life, but our company is a spinoff of our time at NASA Johnson Space Center and volunteering through Engineers Without Borders, NASA Johnson Space Center, and really wanting to see more people have the ability to problem solve on site. You know, specifically, initially we were thinking about our friends in Muganero and in a village in Rwanda and Nicaragua and Mexico, but we started a blog online about this opportunity to make a toilet-sized 3D printer, because what we learned is people were making printers that were large and industrial, but they were really expensive and not accessible. And then there were desktop systems that were open source and accessible, but you can only make small things. And what we learned is that problem solvers like to make things they can use. And so typically those are big. And so we used a composting toilet as a benchmark for our flagship technology. And so we started a blog and we got into a program called Startup Chile with 100 other companies in Santiago, and then launched our product from their booth at South by Southwest in 2013, 8 weeks after we started, and timed that with a Kickstarter campaign. And we were funded in one day. So we attribute a lot of our success to the experts in our community, both through technologists at South by and the people we met in Santiago, the people we met when we were doing our benchmarking through Engineers Without Borders, and the people have brought our products since then. So we're now in, I think, just south of 60 countries with these toilet-sized 3D printers that start at under $10,000 US. And we can now go up to 6 feet tall based on the community request, and do our best to keep that price point as low as possible, so more people have access to these industrial printers. Most recently, though, in the tech community, how people have heard about us, and maybe they might claim we're experts, so we are definitely learning every day, is through another version of our filament-based 3D printers, the one that takes the plastic rope-like material that has been modified to have like a big hopper, a big cone on the top, and that allows you to pour in pellets, which actually makes the filament, or you can use ground-up material. So this provides you with a couple other ways to print directly from plastic waste. It's something we're really passionate about. We're still learning about it every day. And as you might expect in the garbage conversation, there's a lot of micro stakeholders in that, whether it's on the waste side, the producer of the waste, the designers making products that could be leveraged, to the actual applications and all the scientific research that has to go into providing this product and using it in a successful way. So we work with a lot of other experts in the community. Again, we make the hardware that allows this to happen, and kind of one of the first people really doubling down on that solution set. It's been really fun to get to meet other trash printing ninjas and thought leaders.
Trash printing ninjas. There are
Yeah.
so there are so many things that you said in there where I was like, this is fantastic. So you said it's like toilet sized, right? So you're kind of like that sweet spot in the middle between the desktop something and like the super giant big guy.
Well, we can go up to 6 feet tall. That's what's been interesting is the community almost out of the gate from day one on the filament side approached us, different customers. So we designed it, with these stakeholders we met in LMICs, lower middle income countries in mind. And in the 24 hours when we were funded, or 27 hours on Kickstarter, we learned
That's amazing to me. Like for the
yeah.
amount of Kickstarter things that I have seen to have, and especially with this sort of technology, this sort of machine, to have that
Yeah.
funded in one day is absolutely fantastic. So kudos to all of the people who are putting
Yeah, it
that
was like the
together.
highest price, one of the higher price point products that ever had
Yeah,
been listed. Still underpriced, by the way, when we first launched. If you look at the history on
right.
Kickstarter, but there were like hospitals in the U.S. who were trying to buy it, or groups of nurses, and some strategics and system integrators that might be listening in on this call. And we heard from Kickstarter, and they said, we've had more requests from these really large companies trying to figure out how they are set up a Kickstarter account so that they can purchase your product. And so what we learned is, people everywhere are problem solvers. That's why we
Yes.
say that, and they have different needs. And then, down the line over the course of the next couple of years, we had originally thought about making a printer that could make a toilet-sized 3D printer from garbage. What we heard from the community was, not everyone has access to the filament feedstock. And so we started looking at creating filament from waste. And there are some other companies that are doing that really well right now. So they kind of solved that problem. And what we heard is still not everyone, has ability to source the feedstock from outside of their borders or outside of their community. Plus there's just
Right.
extra cost in it. And ultimately that feedstock is made from a pellet resin or a flake. And so we thought, wouldn't it be cool if you could just take whatever waste stream is right near you and grind it up and print with it? So the National Science Foundation, as well as the startup pitch community, was really gracious to us. And so we got about $3.5 million through grants and awards to pursue that. And that's the Gigabyte X platform that you see today.
Yes.
And again, we're not the only people thinking about printing from waste. Everyone has their own motivation in the community. Many of us share lessons learned and actively collaborate, which is really fun. We have customers now using this hardware. And so they're doing their own studies, and we get together once a month to learn from them.
I love that there's always the opportunity there to think and learn and to achieve new things as far as what's coming next in the space. A lot of that from the reclaimed plastic piece came from that reverse pitch sort of thing, right?
Yes and no. So, I mean, when I arrived in 2013 in Santiago, one of my first trips was like taking a taxi, which is always amusing, to a landfill.
Wow.
Just to like the garbage in Santiago, because in my mind, we were going to make this waste printer in like a couple months.
Right. This is a different type of tourist activity.
And then it must have been through an academic at our team, but I remember I had a hula hoop with me, and I was throwing the hula hoop like 10 times randomly from different directions to see where it would land, and like counting all the plastic within it.
Oh gosh.
And I look back on that now and I was like, what was I?
No, it's actually like a really great activity, right? Almost kind of like, where can I throw this and see how much plastic is within it wherever I am?
This is a scientific study, and this is all I need. And now we're going to make a printer to print from garbage. But we've been thinking about it for a while and wrangling support again from the community. And that's why, there are so many experts that go into this conversation. We know how to find smart people to answer questions or to apply for a grant to try and study it with us. There's just a lot of analysis that has to be done. But yeah, it took a considerable amount of resourcing. Anyone in the space is, really in it kind of like we are for the long haul. And, even building like strategic pilots to look at waste, takes years because there's so many micro stakeholders. But to actually answer your question, we've been thinking about waste since, our time in Mugunero and in Nicaragua and Mexico, when we came up with the idea for the focus for Re3D and where we thought we could be helpful. Really, we were clubbed for 2 years in the conference rooms at NASA Johnson Space Center on our lunch hours. But we initially, I think, had ocean waste and consumer waste in mind. Like most people, I think about the guilt they have for all the straws in their glove box or their car, or that.
Gosh. Yeah, you're right.
Starbucks. We reference that, and so I tend to pitch with that too, just because like guilt's a great motivator to get votes. It was reverse pitch that I think, and when we opened our office in Puerto Rico, that really opened my eyes to a broader problem set. And so in reverse pitch is a really cool movement. We've only participated twice. We lost the first time and then came back from a super attempt a couple years later and
right.
We're honored to win. But the movement attracts stakeholders in a community that have waste streams that are going to landfill, that first movers that are really progressive want to divert. And so they say, with my garbage, what could a company do with it to create local value? So and then there's always a series of meetings that lead up to it. And having done it twice over 2.5-3 years, it stimulated a lot of really great conversation within our team. And the company that sponsored it the year that we were honored to win was called HID Global. And it's interesting being a reservist because I see their logo everywhere. So they
Right.
they make my military cat card, and for anyone listening, and they make the identification cards and driver's licenses for individuals all over the world, different countries. So you have one of their products or more in your wallet right now.
Oh, I'm sure.
They stamp that out of a polycarbonate die cut sheet. And then there's what they call a skeleton afterwards, right? Because they can only, in that sheet, they can only cut out so many. And it seems kind of light and flimsy. And, we bring it to tech events. You might see some on our, social media posts, but 2,000 pounds of that goes to landfill approximately every 10 days. And that's a considerable expense. It's, tens of thousands of dollars on top of that. There's a financial motivation and then also just like a commitment to sustainability. A lot of companies haven't really quantified their waste. We're learning our manufacturers just in the downstream of all the suppliers they use. But for a company to do that and to share those metrics is really cool. So by winning reverse pitch, it was just, $10,000, which was enough for us to buy our second granulator that we installed with Habitat for Humanity. We were able to install that in Austin so we could close the loop, right? At a restore. And then we hired 2 individuals to grind it up. And, it takes a hot minute to do that. 2,000 pounds of that garbage was delivered to my garage in Austin. So they had to relay it to Habitat, grind it up, and then relay it back to my garage. So it's still quite a little bit of an unsustainable model. And then we spent, admittedly almost 2 years in different feature improvements of Gigabyte X as we were developing the hardware to actually be able to print with it. But we have made objects now that are just shy of 2 foot by 2 foot cubed. Nice. And we made some smaller objects that were like 6 to 10 inches, and they were little like vases you'll see online. And we sold those via a silent auction just before Christmas over the holidays at a restore here in Austin. And they retailed for up to, I think it was $150 or $125.
Oh, nice. Made from your Gigabyte X.
Yeah, made from ground up garbage, that was being accessed by a company. So we did that just to point out the need for anyone listening that wants to participate in this, and the door is open on our end for strategic pilots, because, people have done like art installations and benches, which we've done as well. But to start to really think through like what is the economic upside and how much value can be made from trash, which, by the way, people in the garbage conversations sometimes don't like me using that word. They like to say resource, but how much value can, be generated from something that otherwise may impact the environment. And so we're growing our alliance and partnerships and collaborations with universities locally, like University of Texas, to start to capture this and make sure it gets published, and technical side, not just around like the chemistry and the material science and the thermal cycles that these polymers undergo and what needs to be done to cope and manage with them and extrude them in a compression screw with reheated bands, just to elucidate some of the many variables we're thinking about, but also to publish the social side and the economics and whatnot. And so in Puerto Rico, we received support from the Puerto Rican Science and Research Trust, and we're working on a shipping container right now in our Houston factory's parking lot that will be powered by a generator and a battery that will have all the equipment to process and print from waste in Puerto Rico. And then we've had support to hire 2 individuals part-time for 6 months. However, the Gene Roddenberry Foundation just gave us an extra grant to bring them on full-time, which is exciting, or allow them extra year to see what Puerto Ricans would make from waste on the island. Because an island is like an extreme example of where this tool may or may not have some merit as landfills are filling. And there's a huge push right now around entrepreneurship on the island. But in Puerto Rico, there are a number of manufacturing companies that make many of the products pharmaceutical companies in particular, that make many of the products we use on a daily basis. And they have waste that they're paying to ship off of an island to get processed. So we're looking at some of those waste streams. And then most specifically, the trust is interested in us processing water bottles. There's still water bottles left over from Hurricanes Irma and Maria.
Oh my goodness.
On the island that could be a resource to create things locally and or to create new jobs. So the 2 individuals we hire, our hope is either they grow with our team, our PR team and on the island, or maybe they'll start their own business around this, which could be really exciting. But thinking about all the metrics that go into that, and this platform being used for what we call project-based learning or capacity building. So we concurrently just received a NSF SBIR Phase 2 award, just again in this desire to think about garbage, to think about studying it, and to think about strategic pilots, to put 2 more of these containers powered by wind in Colorado Springs this year, to work with the cadets on the base to like take their failed prints from like their UAS, UAV projects, and to make other things of DoD value or for their humanitarian engineering efforts, as well as like the base waste from like the water bottles from civil engineering or the dining facility. And looking at over the next 11 months now, we'll be looking at what can be created by the civil engineering department. And they have some really radical ideas and for the humanitarian engineering application. So that'll be going on. And then concurrent with that project, we'll have a mirror in Texas, likely with Habitat for Humanity and the Restore, thinking about other waste streams locally in Texas and what we would make. So we have a lot of conversations like that every day. And our customers buying this platform that that have it, whether it's in the shipping container version or just the printer, are doing the same thing in whatever part of the world they are. But yeah, that's a very long question to reverse pitch. I think we were thinking about a lot of things, but the manufacturing waste is really interesting.
There's a lot there to kind of discuss, and just the various avenues that you all are exploring, as far as commercial, as far as humanitarian, as far as, all of the different pieces there, kind of leads me into the next question I have, which is, what problem are you guys solving for government and industry specifically? Which I think you kind of touched on a little bit.
Yes, just to ensure there's not a conflict of interest. We don't actively recruit government sales, but inherently coming from working at NASA, we have a lot of insight into aerospace and space and some defense. And I kind of commissioned as this company started in parallel. GSA actually recruited us on the schedule when they're making a 3D printing schedule.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, which was super rad. It's not very common, but
no, I was like, wait a minute. I was like, hold on, GSA. I was like, GSA did what?
yeah. John Giannopoulos, if he's listening, man, that guy gets a high five and a beer. But I think it still took me 6 to 9 months, but I didn't have to pay someone. Through that, we've had multiple government entities buy this, and I think a couple did via Kickstarter too initially, which has been really cool. So almost all our sales are organic. So that being said, we have, for our printers, the Department of State has one, FAA. I think I have another meeting with the USDA on one on Monday, or a second one, US Bureau of Reclamation, the FBI, Department of State. We've never sold one to FEMA. We've talked a lot. We've talked to them on and off, DHS, and then multiple NASA campuses have them, and multiple components of DoD, and all of their applications they vary wildly. But just to say, it's a very broad-based technology. Thinking about the container, the government entities are the Pacific Science and Research Trust, and then the U.S. Air Force. Mm-hmm. However, we also have a contract that's kind of interesting with some really progressive surgeons in Tacoma, Washington. These Army surgeons, particularly Major Jason Bingham, was able to find some funding to directly contract us to work on investigating if we could make surgical instruments that mirror the metal tools that they use on deployment.
Right.
And that has been a really fascinating study because, they're plastic, right? So it's never a hemostat made out of plastic is never going to equal metal.
Right.
So we've been kind of dorking around with that with them between deployments and getting feedback. And they actually have gone to using them in their classroom and having, rising surgeons rate them and give feedback, and also looking at bacteria growth on them. But the intent was, is there a possibility, and this is kind of a long conversation, right? But is there a possibility that they could have, so the cool thing about big printers is you can print big things or you can print a lot of little things at one time. But inevitably, when on a deployment, they're running short on something that they didn't anticipate. And usually it's out of a library of items that they commonly use. So they're wondering, could they have a big 3D printer, and then maybe it's optimized for a library of objects that print well and have efficacy, and then they can just, start to print them as they see them depleting, because maybe their supply chain is compromised because it's such a contested area, or
just because it's part of a post-pandemic. Just post-pandemic stuff where everything's.
We actually started this pre-pandemic, but now it's very relevant. And what's interesting is, overall, I would say the feedback from the rising surgeons has been, it's plastic, that sucks, right? But when they did a survey and they said, if this tool was all you had available, because you were out of the metal ones, right? Would you feel comfortable using it, or would it have efficacy? The responses were really interesting, and there was support for, several of the tools. So again, it's not ideal, but it does open up further conversation. So they're exploring that. I'm really hoping that they get to publish those results and we can share them with the community. Longer term too, that same group has said, it'd be really cool if we could even find a way to do it from waste, because in those situations, that waste has to leave the area. Either gets burned or has to be taken away, and it puts, again, warfighters at risk.
Exactly.
So we have, some random projects going on like that are contracts, and then we have a number of people throughout the government industry using our printers for all different applications. What's been interesting with the containerized system is getting to talk a little bit more with rural communities that maybe are leveraging government grants about either capacity building or this opportunity to even float shipping containers between schools in a school district that are spaced far apart, or thinking about new industry development, and then also thinking about these conversations around disaster response and resiliency, and or working in at or near camps where there are displaced persons that say USAID is invested in. So
right,
that's been really intriguing. So it's kind of an extension of what we already do. Again, another long answer.
Hey, all the long answers are good because it just shows how many different avenues that you all are in, and how many different spaces that this is applicable to when it comes to kind of forward thinking and seeing hey, this is the thing that we have, which is one thing. Here are all the different ways that it could possibly be used for both industry as well as, commercial and things like that. What is the most impactful solution that you guys have developed thus far? So I saw, and for those listening on the website, there are some really great blogs about what you guys are doing and the whole, the story about the reclaimed plastic and the reverse pitch and things like that. I think there's also a story about a paddleboard. But
Oh, yes.
is there a solution that you all have developed or something that you all have developed from the Gigabot and going forward that has been really impactful for this space, especially that you or one of your favorites?
Yeah, it's always interesting to hear different responses from our teammates because we all and the community is so broad now that we all touch different customers in different ways and then have our own bias.
Everybody has their favorite thing, right?
Yeah, so obviously one, I just think, I guess excrement is funny, but I'm like, I really love I call them the toilet hacks in the community. And when I was in Chile, I had the opportunity to prototype a urinal on the bot we brought down there for a renewable bathroom installation in Valparaiso, but in a slum there. But I think, impact, we've done a really terrible job of quantifying impact. Some of our customers have done a better job, but there are multiple people like using Gigabot in terms of toilets, either for drug testing applications, for
Right.
prototyping the porta potties, or we're making parts for them to
Right.
actually making composting toilets, which I think is cool. One of my favorite applications, though, related to that I just think is funny is there was, I think it was a Jacobs contractor. Hopefully I'm not misspeaking. So it gets complicated because sometimes at a base or like say a NASA campus, you'll have contractors that have our hardware as well as the actual civil servant.
Right.
So I think this might have been a Jacobs contractor that was using one owned by NASA Johnson Space Center. It could have been theirs. I can't recall. They had a challenge, I guess, going on to make a better toilet seat for women on the International Space Station because, you want to press fit and you want it to be comfortable. And so I guess the ladies of NASA had said, we could do better, guys. And so
there's a better option here. Let's find it.
That wasn't like a attachment or, for the women's toilet seat. That's how I put it. I'm sure there's a lot that went into there, but break. I've applied to be an astronaut a couple of times. So I just love this stuff.
Oh yeah,
so
definitely.
I guess they had multiple solutions that were presented and they had used 3D printing and Gigabot, at least for some of the options. And then, they had finished them off. So, looked like a toilet seat.
Right.
But let's just say that the contractor that used our printer made the winning toilet seat for women on the ISS. So that makes me happy.
No, that's awesome. And it's very cool to be able to say like, hey, something that we created was able to make this a possibility.
Yeah. Cause nobody wants that floating around.
No. Hey, you know what? Necessity is necessity. And it makes perfect sense to me. So I would definitely be excited about that. And just to say like using our technology, this was able to be made and now has made a difference for people on the International Space Station.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
The ones that warm my heart are the ones that probably get closer to why we started this. So, we give one printer away for every 100 we deliver to someone trying to make a difference in their community. If anyone ever wants to judge that, the Giga Prize, please let us know. We might have another one soon. Those stories are always just like mind blowing of the things that people think about to make a difference on using their hardware and how they quantify impact. But one of the winners was the first one, Mary. They have this amazing video. It's probably online somewhere if you Google Giga Prize, but they were in the Kibera slum in Kenya. And, they noticed that like when you buy PVC in the black market or even in the supermarket, it may have like a different diameter depending on if it was made from China or the US. And then you got different vendors and blah, blah, blah. And so they made the PVC to distribute the clean water out to the edge of the slum. And there's not always like a great fit. So then you might lose some water and that's not
Which
ideal.
is a big deal. Yeah, no, we need as much water as we can get that way.
Yeah. So in their video, they have said, hey, we want to make valves, like a lot of these valves, 3D printing is a perfect solution for it to help us like meet this PVC and, and to help our community have access to clean water. And they ended up using that printer for a lot of things, but that application, back then in 2013, 2014, like really blew our mind, obviously like really inspired us. There's another user though in Nigeria, Tokuchiwo Clinton. He has the Clinton Foundation now. And that guy, man, he's taken on the government. He's taken on this this is pre-pandemic, the education system. And he's so passionate about teaching 3D printing and teaching technology. Has like a community space now. And he started printing from garbage before we did because he wasn't going to wait around. Like really good, cool maker and hacked our bot 1,000 ways now and leveraged it like his modular framework, but really just to try and empower and to build capacity in his own community and inspire a whole cadre of entrepreneurs. And so when we see the printers being used closer to our intent when we first designed it, to help create local jobs and local goods and to help people have one more tool to be economically independent. And as a warfighter, I think that could address a lot of our social issues. To me, that's really exciting. But, we are just flies on the wall that get to smile sometimes when we see a cool post, online.
And I love that you all are so passionate and so supportive of the innovation happening with your tools, with your technology, and the fact that you're encouraging it and saying, hey, take what we've made and figure out what the opportunities are. Sky's the limit at this point. Yeah. And I think one of your hashtags that you guys used to use was dream big, print large.
Huge. Yeah.
Which I absolutely love, because that's one of those things that's just literally sky's the limit, do the thing, figure out what your opportunities are and where the need is, and then develop a solution to make it happen. And if you can use our technology to do it, have at it. And then tell us about it.
We're not again, we're just one more tool in the toolkit. I always tell people there's lots of different types of 3D printers. You may need a screwdriver, you need a bigger screwdriver, you may need a wrench. We all do different things.
And the fact that you all are willing to partner and to be part of the solution, wherever that might fit in, is really something that's able to be celebrated, I would say. And so congratulations to you guys. And I think I want to say that you guys last year won the CTA Company of the Year Award, the Consumer Technology Association.
Yeah.
So congratulations to that.
I don't feel like we marketed that well. So it was one of those pandemic things where it was I think we won it the year the pandemic started, and then the award ceremony was delayed a couple times, and then they kind of batched us with that year's real group.
Right.
That was amazing that they honored us with that. And Matthew and I did get to go to the awards where they honored both years last winter, and we were just blown away by the people we met and just the inspiration in the room.
Of course. And it's nice that you all were also celebrated and recognized for the things that you were doing.
Yeah, it was really cool. Good dinner too.
Hey, good food is always a great thing.
Well done.
Exactly. Speaking of things that we're celebrating, what is your company most excited about for the next 12 months? I know you have a lot going on. You're doing these conversations daily. Is there anything that you can tell us that's not like a trade secret or under a super NDA that you are looking forward to?
Yeah. So the many supply chain issues we're facing, buying granulators and dryers and hardware and outfitting shipping containers. This year there will be 5 shipping containers, likely working on 3 different circular economy opportunities, whether it's, at a base/education institute with USAFA, whatever that Texas Mirror ends up doing. And then with the Puerto Rican Science and Research Trust and the community and PR, primarily in conjunction with Engine 4. It's a huge IoT co-working makerspace. And they're currently working on 3D printing coral. That's another conversation. Time will tell, if that has merit, but they're interested in using that container too to make coral from garbage, which is super, super cool. So over the next 12 months, because it's contracted, those things will happen. And there will be people, what we see with Gigabot right now, the printer in these containers evolving, what the real opportunity is with them and documenting in all the ways that maybe it doesn't make sense. So that's going to be really exciting. Anytime we can have something that, started internally and get it in the hands of users and then let them shape where it goes from there, is those years that we've had the opportunity to watch, something we worked on for a really long time go out into the wild and to be shaped is just always really, there's always this just sense of awe and wonder and humility.
It's like the bird that you hatched from an egg and now it's ready to go.
Yeah, because I've been thinking about the container thing for 2.5 years now, but yeah, just to see funding and to see organizations too that have the ability to really look at with rigor around, all the different aspects of it is going to be really cool. So that's this year. We're also in the process, if anyone's listening, of looking for economic incentives. This year, we would really like to have land and either build out our own building or buy a building we're leasing right now across from Johnson. If someone is anywhere between Austin and Houston and has thoughts about that, we'd love to chat with them. But we currently give tours. I think we're number 5 on day trips, things to do on TripAdvisor.
Oh, nice.
Tours right now in Houston. We want to scale, we love doing the virtual and in-person tours and workshops, and we want to scale that opportunity as we grow with the community and have space for all these shipping containers for that form factor. And our printers are getting bigger and bigger. When you make the 6-foot tall printer, it takes a lot of room. So we're really excited to do that. And then we're hiring for almost all of our roles. So what's cool is when we get new teammates into the company is just, leaning on their past experience and their thoughts about where we go. So yeah, I think internally that's going to be really fun, growing our team, potentially scaling our physical space, and then seeing how a new community that's using the containerized version shapes what we do as well. So I think there's a lot of excitement on all fronts.
Yeah, it seems like you've come a far ways from a taxi ride to a landfill with a plastic hula hoop.
I don't even know if I was wearing gloves. I remember just kind of stumbling through this mound. I don't know.
But you saw it as possibility. It's the one person's trash to another person's treasure. That's the epitome of that right there.
Yeah, I remember like I did some dumb things that year. Like I remember I printed, I don't know, I was probably like a Yoda. No, it was a toilet because I was printing a lot of toilet when I got to Santiago. Like I took a printed toilet and I buried it with some filament, like in a park across from our apartment. It's like a main road that runs through Santiago because I was like, oh, I want to watch how it
breaks down. Yeah.
Yeah, it turns out like it takes like a lot of pressure and time for PLA to do that. But I was like that naive when I first.
You're like, let's just see. Hey, there's no reward without risk, and it sounds like you have been good at kind of taking that calculated risk to see what happens.
Yeah, but somewhere in Santiago are a few buried toilets.
You know what? That's like a different type of time capsule right there.
Yeah.
I like it. I like that a lot. What is the best place for our audience to connect with you? Should they want to know more about this or have questions or potentially, have space that's available for you?
If you go to RE Romeo Echo 3 like the number D like Delta.org, that is our website. If you're interested in either taking a tour or speaking at a meetup or participating in any of our social events, that's on our impact tab. And then if you want to check out any of our printers, either the filament or the pellet, you'll see the tab right there. It's called 3D printers from our homepage. And if you're interested in our services, it's on the services tab.
Awesome. And we'll put all of those links into the show notes as well to make that really easy for people to get to. And I love how you explained what the web address was. I was like, look at that. I was like, there's that military experience, that reservist experience. I was like, you fell right into it. Perfect.
That was fun.
The very last question I have for you is, what challenge do you see facing your industry today that needs immediate solutions, whether you can provide those or something that at a bigger level that needs some more discussion?
Oh gosh. I mean, everything is so hard. I would say, people that have a lot to say about what we do in the industry often point to the fact that like the platform is really broad because the printers, speaking of the printers, because they're just a tool, right? And so, there's been some gains in certain industries, but to truly get to scale, people often too are pointing out like, why do so many companies except for EOS have to fundraise? Why is there so much consolidation? Why have so many companies not made it? It's really difficult. It's still, on the low volume side, and there's a lot of variables as we pointed out in this talk, but to get to scale in specific applications, at the end of the day, one, it comes down to rigor. So if you have a passion for data collection, and if you're an academic listening to this, we want to talk to you because it's capturing and truly publishing and presenting to industry experts the opportunity that is critical. So we're not all, making the same mistakes, but more importantly, what that enables then are conversations with the organizations, and there's multiple organizations that shape standards. But until the standards, and if you're DoD, qualification and certifications enable the opportunity to print functional part repeatedly, and until those are aligned, and the technical data packages and everything, the myriad of other things that go along with that ecosystem, until that's established, you're just going to see like these onesie and twosie applications, or what we call small batch or low volume manufacturing. So really what we need is more dialogue around standards for AM, because the materials are quickly catching up, and then the hardware is kind of, trailing behind it. But if the industry can't accept it, then, you're still a little bit hamstrung. In parallel with that, and what I'm very passionate about coming from Detroit, is discussion on trade skills for U.S. manufacturing. Right now, there's a lot of fratricide within manufacturing, poaching the same talent. It is super difficult to find a qualified machinist, an assembly technician, a production manager, and anything we can do to increase trade skills and to celebrate our frontline workers and people who choose that as a career is really needed. And that it's going to take a long time. And I think many people now in the industry recognize that. But anything we can do to contribute to that conversation, at least as a small to medium manufacturer, we're really keen to participate in, because it's a big problem that's limiting our growth and our ability to serve the community and helping the U.S. stay competitive.
I wish that I had more to add to that, but I think you wrapped it up really nicely. And that just needs, it sounds like there needs to be a little bit more conversation and a little bit of an open mind there, and a little bit more attention paid to certain specific verticals within there.
Yeah. And, President Biden spoke about it a little bit in the State of the Union, which was really exciting to us. But, we're former NASA nerds with our heads down trying to do all these things. So, if there's an initiative or a dialogue that anyone listening thinks that we need to participate in, please feel free to shoot me a note. I can be found at Samantha@re3d.org.
Fantastic. Samantha, thank you so much for joining me today and bringing all this kind of to light and sharing it with us. I'm really looking forward to what you all are going to do in the next 12 months, and hope that we can get some updates from you here once those shipping containers go out.
Yeah, that would be fantastic.
Have a great day, and thank you so much.
All right, have a great day.
I cannot wait to hear the update on those shipping containers, as well as to discover what else can be done in the realm of 3D printing. As always, if you are a GovMate and you're working in innovative ways to solve new and emerging problems, our GovMates Nation wants to hear from you. Reach out to me at meg@govmates.com, and we will discuss the art of the possible, potentially getting you on an episode here. I look forward to seeing you all on the next episode, and until then, Have a great week. This podcast is brought to you by GovMates, a technology scouting platform for innovation, collaboration, and acceleration in the federal space. We appreciate that you're along for the ride and would like to invite you to leave a favorable review on Apple Podcasts or anywhere you enjoy listening. To suggest future guests or for any questions, please email meg@govmates.com. For more information about GovMates, you can visit us at govmates.com.